You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts of this show. And I don't know why I felt the need to do this really big arm thing. Number one, in this little box, I don't even think that you could really see it that well, but I don't know.
Well, hey, it's better than the small hands thing.
Uh-oh. Did I forget
Donald Trump.
Oh, yes. Well, but it might be more appropriate considering the size of our little boxes. Right. See, if I do this.
Well, that's more Palpatine-ish.
Well, yeah. Oh, apropos.
Yes. Size matters not.
Yes. Well, you know what? Here we are. I just got your text. Yeah, that was hilarious. I enjoy that. Yeah, we're reviewing the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. It finally was released, in spite of everything last week that I was talking about with my mom and all that. She's making some incremental improvements. Still far from, better. But I mean, there's a lot of things that they didn't think she'd be able to do. She's able to do, and she's getting better. So because of that, I was actually able to. Sneak out and see this with you. Actually, we were able to continue our tradition of going to the Star Wars movies together, which I believe we started doing with episode 3.
Was it?
I think so.
Yes, it was 3.
Because I remember it was...
I saw 2, but I remember I thought I saw it before you, and you already had seen it. That's what it was.
Because you went kind of early or whatever, and I'm like, I went to the midnight show.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, son of a...
Yeah. So I believe it was episode 3. That was the first one that we actually saw together, and we've seen... That was like 21 years ago. So I know.
Jeez.
So I mean, that was basically ever since then. You and I have seen everything. We even went and saw when the Clone Wars premiered, and they did that theatrically. We went and saw that in 2006.
Yep.
So every Star Wars movie that has come out, that has come out since, we have seen together, and I was really worried that we weren't going to be able to do it with this one, but we managed to go. And, of course, one of our longtime viewers, David.
Yeah.
David actually went with us. And you were joking, and this actually is not a bad idea. I mean, I know.
I know, right?
I know I'm opening up a lot by doing this. You know what? Let me find that graphic. Where's that graphic? Yeah, here it is. We haven't put this thing up in a while, but with these packages. Now, if you do the buy me a coffee thing, obviously you can give us a tip. You can do whatever, but if you do the Jedi Master package, which David is the only one who has done that, I'll disclose that. And we still own a t-shirt, actually. We've been so bad about that.
Probably should have bought one at the theater.
Right? But the thing that's funny about that is that you, I think, ended up making the joke after David did that. You're kind of like, hey, maybe we should offer that as one of the packages, right? Like if you sign up for the Jedi Master package, you could actually go to the movies with us and watch it or whatever.
We're gonna add a Grandmaster.
The Grandmaster. Yes. That's what that is. Yeah. Grandmaster package. So we have a couple of longtime people in the chats. I'm blown away by this. 2 right now that have not chatted in a while that I've actually missed. You and I have talked about these 2 people off air. And they're back, and it's not Ronaldo. Spoiler alert. We still don't know what happened. Ronaldo just, I don't know. Like I said, I hope he's okay. But first, we have the return of Dragonfly.
Wow.
Dragonfly. Long time, guys. And even more insane because last time I saw her, and I remember it was a woman this time. The last time that we've seen her, she actually tried to call in when I was experimenting with that all call-in show thing, which I do still want to get working one day, by the way, because I think it would add an extra level of interest if we could actually take live phone calls. So I'm still working on that. But it's Voyager. And she says, your first Star Wars movie together was Revenge of the Sith? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know,
Well,
right?
You have to think about it. I mean, of course, the originals, I wouldn't have been around. I was barely even born for it. So, I mean, of course, he saw those without me. Now, I didn't meet Eric until.
Was it 90?
Phantom Menace. Technically.
Because I think we knew each other before
98.
Yeah, I thought it was like 98.
I was aware of you, but I really didn't meet you.
Right, like you were in the class or whatever, and I think you were like...
I hadn't taken the class yet. I just
really?
saw you.
Was it because I knew your grandparents?
Well, I didn't find that out until I actually met you, which was my sophomore year in high school. So you were helping teach the class, and I took the class my sophomore year. That's when I was introduced to you. And then that's when we started our friendship, started beginning, from that point. And we started, finding our love for Star Wars, and, you realize you knew my grandparents and all this, we started realizing our lives were very.
Yeah, well, I remember that. And then I remember us being in the TV studio. This is almost like the first episode of the show where we talked about we got into it, but I know right now people are like, hey, the movie, but we'll get there. Yeah, exactly. We'll get there. Just, take it easy. But I do remember you coming down to the studio or something, I think for like a group project. And I think that was when we brought up, like, I think I said some Star Wars line or something, and you might have been like, or maybe it was you that did it. And one of us, whoever brought up the line or whatever it was, the other said, well, wait, you like Star Wars?
Nope, it was. I could tell you exactly.
Was I like completely off? Awesome.
This totally sounds. Well, first of all, let me just
before you do that, before you do that, because I got to know this. So in Voyager, when you were asking about our first Star Wars movie being Revenge of the Sith, so why are you like really surprised by that? Is it? I'm just curious.
Well, I think she said together. I think that's another part.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I'm just curious. I don't know. Call me like nosy. I don't know. I'm just wondering clarification. That's all.
Well, no, she probably thinks I'm closer to your age, and
Well, that's what I want to know. I want to know, like, does she think that you're older, I'm younger, or what? I mean, I know. Look, I know how that sounds, but I'm just really curious.
I was like, this is going down.
No, I cannot follow. I'm just curious. That's all. I just want a clarification. And then, really quickly, because Ted's been chatting a lot, but Dragonfly was like, means a lot to hear that. Thanks. Yeah, man. Look, all of our classic, like, longtime viewers, we know all you guys, all your names and stuff like that, and we do. We bring you guys up all the time because we really, it's like a community. That's what separates us from like all these other YouTube channels or whatever, is that we like to get to be familiar with you guys, kind of like we're just a group of friends that go out, hang out, and talk Star Wars. All right, so Voyager answers. She says, I didn't realize you two knew each other for so long. Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Actually, we don't realize it half the time either, because like when I thought about that, I'm like, dude, it's been a minute. It has been a minute. I mean, Yeah. All right, but go ahead. You were about to say something. If you still remember,
it was the Boba Fett bobblehead that you had in the studio.
Really? Because I still have that at my desk at work.
I know, but I remember seeing it and I was like, "Hey, Boba Fett." I'm like, "Oh, and I just kind of like, oh, you like Star Wars?" And you're like, "Like it?" Like, and I was just like,
"Yeah." I have to admit, because I had to remember that you didn't really know me. It's like, because anybody that knows me knows that I'm like really deep into Star Wars. Like, I love it. Like, to the point I get made fun of. You know, that's why I remember we made the joke a couple of weeks ago. Like, if I'm talking to a woman or something, and I'm like, yeah, I just do this YouTube show or something. I always cringe when the woman goes, oh, yeah? What's it on?
What's the topic?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is where I'm going to lose, like, all chances with this person. And then I have to sheepishly go, Star Wars show. I mean, I can count the number of times on one hand that, the response is, oh, where it isn't, oh, I think Star Wars is stupid, or like, really?
What are you, 12? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, hey, man. I mean, look, we are going to do the Entertainment Exchange show at some point. I know we keep threatening to do that. I have the other whole channel that I've been trying to build out and do a lot of like rock music related programming and stuff. So hopefully I can maybe, depending on the audience, de-emphasize. But hey, you guys are all here because you love Star Wars. We love Star Wars. So, Ted's got a gang of chats pretty much on this film. Mandalorian and Grogu. Oh, there was one thing that Voyager did say that I want to get in here real quick. She said, I thought David was your in real life friend coworker. He is. He's kind of like a new friend for me because I got to know him through the show, and then I think yesterday was the first time I met him in person, wasn't it?
Yep, that was the cool thing.
Yeah,
that was the first time
because he was your friend for a while, and then he started watching the show because you told him about it, and then of course I got to know him through the show, so he kind of felt like my friend because he chats so much, and then when our third co-host, Dave Cossey, on the Thanksgiving specials, wasn't able to really do it anymore, we realized with the Jedi Master thing, like, oh yeah, we were supposed to, like, one of the things in there is you're supposed to be able to co-host a show with us. It's like one of the, if you do that, if you support us at that level, that's one of the things that you do. And so we decided to kill two birds with one stone, and he did that, and then of course, this last Thanksgiving, he did it again. So he's probably just going to be like our permanent Thanksgiving co-host because it's easier for him to do it. I actually entertained the idea, by the way, of bringing him on the show tonight. I was very, very close to doing that since he did actually go and see it with us. But I'm sure he'll probably chat in like eventually. Yeah. All right, so with that, Ted's got a bunch of chats related to the film. All right. And this is the first time, I'm not even going to tell you what we think of it yet. Let's just go through Ted's thing, and maybe we could use that as like a catalyst to give our thoughts. All right, so the first thing he says is, I'm definitely not going to fight anyone's idea on this one. I enjoyed it, but if others didn't for whatever reason, then okay, I'd give it a solid 8, but if you give it a 4, not going to bother me either way. He goes on to say, I was reminded a lot of George Lucas's Star Wars Galaxy, minus the deep lore that doesn't make an appearance. He said, it's definitely different from the sequels, with more of that Lucas feel for the good of this movie. And if this is an indication of what Dave will give us moving forward, then I'm all good with that too. He said that it's much better than the sequels and the Acolyte for me. Your mileage may vary. And I think we will see what Dave wants to do with the deep lore on Ahsoka Season 2. Yeah, I think you're right about that. 2 more here, he says, and it was merely a good fun adventure in the Star Wars galaxy, and I'm good with that too. He says, thanks for the origin of you two meeting. Love the backstory. Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny because a lot of times there are things that I think would be of interest to you guys, and I never got to do it. Because when we did that very first episode, it was an audio-only episode. Mm-hmm. And it's on YouTube, but the thing is, it's like, it's, it's just the audio with like a still or something. And it's not even like any of the, it's like before I started making really cool thumbnails, it was like kind of a basic thing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, sometimes I think it isn't a bad idea for us to go back over some of these topics, like how we met, how we got into Star Wars, that kind of thing. Because I think that ultimately, there's been a lot of, let's face it, I mean, we got like over 20,000 subscribers. How active they are, I don't know. But the point is a lot of you guys actually that are watching now, whether you're watching live right now or whether you watch after the fact. There's a lot of people, they watch after the live broadcast. You guys might be wondering some of this stuff. Like, well, who are these two guys that are just rambling on about Star Wars, and why should I pay attention to them?
But join us or die.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's good that we can actually provide that once. And yeah, I mean, for me, I'm sort of there with it. Like, I really enjoyed it. I think both of us talked about it, how we really enjoyed it. We thought it was cool. David actually loved it, which, was cool. I agree that it did harken back to that Lucas era thing a little bit, even though it was different. Another thing you and I talked about very heavily, which I'm sure we'll go into more detail with, is the music. The music was phenomenal because it was different. Like, they were mixing the traditional Star Wars-y orchestra stuff with like an EDM kind of deal, and then it would go into almost like a world music kind of thing, and yet it all congealed nicely. Like, it just nothing felt jarring or foreign or what's this doing? Like we saw in some of the sequel stuff actually. So I mean, I thought that was cool. If I had to like levy any criticisms on it, because again, I'm kind of where Ted is at. Like, there's a lot of reviewers that are out there right now that are panning this thing big time. And I have gone back and listened and watched a bunch of reviews on this show. I mean, I've been doing it throughout the week or whatever, but I mean, I've really been trying to dial that in just to see what are people's issues. And I really wanted to do that before I went and saw the movie, because I wanted to keep that in mind while I was watching. And after seeing it, I mean, I could say, look, a lot of the people who had issues with this movie, I don't necessarily disagree with the issues that they had. They just didn't bother me. Like, for example, I'll give you a couple. One, their whole thing was like, and I do agree with this, actually. They said it felt like two movies in one. They said what they should have done was stuck with the whole Empire storyline. The thing, everybody says, it started out amazing. You had almost like this John Wick and Star Wars thing going, where he was hunting the Empire, and he was trying to figure out like what the Empire was doing, what they were hiding, and all this other stuff. And then they just abruptly switch gears and move over to this whole Hutt thing that actually occupies the rest of the movie. And you're like, well, wait a second. You had this really intriguing, cool Empire-based storyline that you just kind of abandoned or loosely referenced in the rest of the movie. I agree with that. I agree with all of that. It probably would have actually made the movie 100 times better. It didn't really bother me because I was kind of into the HUD storyline too. The second criticism that I'll give you guys that they give a lot was that it felt like a giant expanded Disney Plus episode. I agree with that too. However, it felt cinematic enough for me. And there was a lot of that, Star Wars movie vibe to it. That even though I could detect certain aspects of it that maybe felt, because it's almost like one of those, if you just made this into a Disney Plus, you remember how you and I were always talking about it would be cool if they actually made films for Disney Plus, like not just TV shows, but just did like a 2-hour Disney Plus movie or something. Because you and I talked about them doing that. If they were doing the Mandoverse, maybe not make it theatrical, but make like their Avengers style movie that would culminate in, wrapping up the first phase and second phase or whatever of the Mandoverse. Maybe they just do a Disney Plus, like a made for Disney Plus movie. Because let's face it, I mean, in the streaming world, really, what's the difference between movies and TV now. You know, I mean, you got Netflix. Instead of them just putting it out on Netflix, they put it out theatrically, so that way it'll be up for Oscars and stuff like that. Not really a difference. I mean, both of the Knives Out movies basically were for streaming, and then they just put them in the theater. Only the first one was like a true theatrical release. So I mean, I get it, but again, it didn't take me out of the movie or anything. So, you know, overall, I agree with Ted. You know, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. I don't remember anything jumping out at me that I had any issues. Let me get these two from Dragonfly in, and then Daryl, you can go ahead and start giving, your thoughts on the whole thing. So Dragonfly says, felt like episode 2 meets the first half of episode 6. I could see that. Well, I remember when they were doing the little, oh man, I forgot what creatures those are. The ones that were fixing the ship.
Anzelians?
Yeah. I almost leaned over to you in the theater going, up, here comes the Ewok portion of the movie. Then he goes on to say, we watched the animated Clone Wars movie before the movie. Oh, interesting. And he says, we've seen lesser novels made into movies. To your point, Eric, there's a lot of good straight-to-video film. Yeah, and I mean, the only thing I could say is, I mean, I'm glad, obviously, I saw it on the big screen. But it wasn't... I agree that it was better in a lot of ways in the sequel trilogy, but the sequel trilogy still felt, I think, more cinematic for some. I don't know. And then, of course, we'll go into Daryl with this. Travis says, how's it going, guys? So it's good. We got some people.
Travis is back.
Yeah, Travis is back. We've got some people we haven't seen in a while. Got some of our newer people on. This is a good mix of people. So go ahead and give your thoughts on what this is. And while you do that, I think I'll put this back up so people are reminded that it is a spoiler review.
So I really enjoyed the movie, and I think the thing that people or fans have to keep in mind is you have to kind of think of what are they trying to accomplish with this film. And we talked about this on our last episode. Because we were talking about like going in, what are our expectations? And that's important because you need to temper them because you don't want to go in there with an expectation of, you're about to see some, gripping, spellbinding, movie, and it wasn't even intended to be that. It wasn't even their intention to begin with, right? I think this film, and that's why I said had the sentiment of it just has to be good. I want a good story. I want a good action. I want it to make sense. I don't want, I need to hit certain beats for it to be a Star Wars film. And I'm good with that. It doesn't have to set the world on fire. I knew for the most part that it wasn't going to, it would have been nice, or a pleasant surprise. But I kind of already knew that it wasn't going to be, trilogy worthy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Now, the thing is, with this, and I knew it was going to be, it's kind of like your Saturday, which it was for us, at least for us, just Saturday afternoon, like, hey, grab some popcorn, which they gave Eric a smorgasbord of popcorn. And
it was not a medium,
still feeling it. Probably still feeling it today. But the thing is that it was a good film. It hit all the beats. Now, to the point of like, it started off with the whole Empire thing, which was really, really cool. But we've seen that happen in tons of movies. I can think of one particular franchise, for example, James Bond, the Daniel Craig, where they kind of start off with this whole action scene, and then it's like this explosive, it's a car chase, it's crazy, and then they switch to, what the actual, James gets shot in the shoulder, and now he's on the shelf for like 6 weeks rehabbing, and he's trying to figure out if he can get back into the field or not. the story changes, and it's fine because you're basically picking up at the end of a mission, and you before you start the next mission. So that didn't really throw me out of whack too much. I mean, like I said, the stuff that people were complaining about um didn't bother me. Like Eric said, it just didn't bother me. Now I do have a very big chief complaint. Now it has nothing. I won't say what. Let me take that back. It's prevalent in this movie, but it's also becoming a huge trend in Star Wars lately. With I would say at least with mm, the sequel trilogy, perhaps. I'll start there, and that is, I am tired. Lucasfilm, listen up. I am tired of you keep clickbaiting us, real fans, with these characters that are played by these extraordinary, actors and actresses, and you barely use them. We didn't need Sigourney Weaver to play Colonel. Who? She didn't even do anything. Did we really need Sigourney? Did you really need to waste money on hire? I mean, don't get me wrong, love her as an actress, but that's my point. As her caliber, I'm expecting. Okay, you put her name on the billboard. I'm expecting her to have a huge role. Now, the cool thing with Carl Weathers, when he, God rest him, but at least he was actually a big part of the Mandalorian series. So I won't count that. But let's look at the other people that we've had. We've had Gwendolyn Christie as Captain Phasma. Barely even used her. Didn't even know. I mean, it was just kind of like, all right, did we really need Gwendolyn Christie to play that character? No. No different than we needed Sigourney Weaver to play Colonel What's Her Face. I'm trying not to have a Pete moment. But
might get us more views.
Yeah, I'll tell you that. Right. But the thing is that I really that really bothers me is that they would do that. It's like, oh, this person is going to be in here, or like even for example, Martin Scorsese. Okay, you announced that he's going to be in the film. We're all going to be looking for him. He plays a little uh food truck guy.
Yeah, but that I don't necessarily count. I wouldn't count that in the complaint because, first of all, we all know that Martin Scorsese is like a legendary director.
He's a director. He's more of a director than an actor.
He's also and he's more of a Star Wars fan. And he was around, and it's like he wanted to be in it, being a fan. And so they did, and I didn't necessarily think that was a wasted role. I mean, I actually think that little creature guy that he played probably had more to do than Sigourney Weaver did.
Well, he definitely did, but what I'm saying is that again, you didn't
need to, but it was one of those things that.
And then the fact that you're broadcast, it's the way that
Daniel Craig didn't need to play a stormtrooper either.
Yeah, but they didn't put Daniel Craig on the billboard either.
That's true.
That's my point.
They didn't use him to advertise the movie.
Yeah, like okay, yeah, like when you say, "Oh, Samuel L. Jackson's going to be in Star Wars,"
right?
And he's Mace Windu. That's what I want to see.
But see, the thing is, and that's where I think that Lucas probably had a little bit more insight because if you remember, Samuel L. Jackson just wanted to be a stormtrooper. He's like, "Look, man, I don't care." And Lucas is like, No, dude. If we're putting you in the movie, we're giving you an actual, like, real role.
Exactly.
And I do agree. I think that is something. I mean, I don't. The Sigourney Weaver thing. I mean, I don't disagree with you at all. It's just it didn't bother me as bad as like a Phasma or something like that because I could see what they were doing there. They were playing on the look. You and I have said this a million times. This movie had to do well. Now, I'm actually surprised that Grandmaster's not on tonight because, the movie is finally out. And I'm sure he would want to see what we're actually saying about it. But he did write today that, you know, it's making like 160 million. What he's not pointing out, I don't think, though, is that's globally. I think it made 80 million, maybe 90 million when they factor in tomorrow, for the opening weekend.
And we still got Memorial Day weekend, so a lot of people might still, you know.
Well, that's what they're projecting through Memorial Day week. It's the 4-day weekend. It's made 60 million or something like that so far. They're projecting like 80 million once the weekend total, and then when you add in Memorial Day, they think 90 million. So it's being considered a success, but I think, I don't know, I'd have to go back and look. And I think Grandmaster actually posted it in our Discord, which if you guys haven't joined our Discord, you should really join our Discord because there's a lot of good information there and we get into a lot of good discussion. But I think he may have posted the actual box office of a lot of the recent movies and stuff for opening weekend, and I think that this one is successful. It's probably a little too early to tell, but I think what they were trying to do with the Sigourney Weaver thing is like, look, she's another franchise person with the whole Alien franchise, and now she's coming in, you know, here. And you could almost make the argument that the type of character that she played in this is essentially kind of similar to, well, she probably had more to do, but the Avatar movies. But I think she even had, you know, more there. It's tough to say, but I mean, it. I don't know.
See, my thing is, and this is where
your problem is that she was a market. Like, even if she had been in it, if they hadn't made a big deal about it, that's probably what you're saying, right?
Absolutely. Well, not only that, but I mean, and especially when you bring someone of her caliber in, you're like, now your mind starts to wonder, like, okay, well, what character could she be playing? Now, don't get me wrong. I think her character would have been great if they would have actually fleshed out more of the New Republic stuff, like as far as, hey, look, we need you guys to. This is what's going on with the Empire, the remnants of the Empire. We're having these troubles. You know, she's getting into these, arguments, these bureaucratic debates with, the New Republic. They're arguing, they're fighting. Like, we have to stop these people because if we don't, the Empire will pop right back up. And, like if you really had some drama in that department, I could see, now that would warrant Sigourney Weaver. That would definitely give her merit.
Oh, Grandmaster is here, by the way.
Oh, sweet. But if you just have her pop up and she's just like, hey, I found a Razor Crest for you, you might like, this is cool. I know you like these things, and guys gave it to me wholesale. Hey, if you take this job, and then the next thing you know, okay, hey, we're about to bomb you guys. You might want to get out of there. Did we really need Sigourney Weaver for that?
But
no.
This goes back to the complaint that a lot of people had that I brought up that you were negating with the whole James Bond example. But I still stand by this. It's not like an opening action scene and then you cut to the real plot. There was a lot of meat on that Empire storyline bone. That could have been the real plot. That's what I'm saying. That's what a lot of the reviewers were saying. And that goes into what the point you're just making right now.
Well, you could have, you could tell whatever story you want. I mean, yeah, that would have been more of a meaty, weighty problem to have to unpack. However, I just don't think that they were trying to go that deep. I think they were trying to really just have a fun movie. So that's why it goes back. That's why it goes back to the purpose of it. Like, okay, what are we really trying to accomplish? Are we really trying to delve into, like somebody, I think Ted said earlier, are we really trying? You're not going to get the deep lore, or you're not going to get that. I would have liked that, sure, but I also have fun with this. So it just depends. It's like, all right, do you want, chicken and rice, and yeah, that's a good hearty meal. Or do you want to have some really cool, hey, this cake and ice cream is really good too. Just depends on what you have a taste for, and they chose to go with cake and ice cream.
Well, I think the predominant reason for that, again, is, everybody has to remember
It's
that
safer.
this is, well, it's made for kids too. Now,
That too, but I think it's also safer. Now, granted, Grogu definitely appeals to the little kids and even the adults because it's cute and he's cute and whatnot. But I think it's a safer thing. It's like, okay, it's safer to do fun because when you go into the weighty stuff, now you have to be very particular on how you handle these characters. How deep do you go? What perils do you put them in? How do you get them out of it? What changes do these characters? You take them? It takes a lot more time to figure out, and that sometimes I think they are afraid that it will flop if they did that, so they went with something safe and did the fun thing.
well, that's the thing. I mean, they were basically trying to. See, I think when Lucas did the original trilogy, he had a good balance of both.
True.
I don't necessarily think that you have to sacrifice weight for fun. I
You
think you
don't.
could do
You
both.
shouldn't have to.
Now, I
But the thing,
agree that you're right, that they probably were overdoing the fun part to make sure, because again, and we've talked about this before. I mean, this is the first theatrical release Star Wars since the Rise of Skywalker 7 years ago. And Star
yeah,
Wars has taken a few
and
hits in that
that's
time
why we
period.
have to get you back to fun.
Yeah.
No different than The Force Awakens, how they try to harken back to the vibe of Episode 4 because they wanted that nostalgia. Hey, we want you to remember what Star Wars was like back in 1977. Well, we just updated it a little bit. I feel like that's the same thing that we run into here. Is that like, hey, let's get something out there that's a safe bet, a safe win. We can definitely like, hey, you know what? Can't mess this up. It's like chicken tenders. Hey, you just drop them in the grease, comes out, it's crispy, we're good.
Well, I
Can't
mean,
really mess
you
that
were
up.
alluding to it, but it's carnival food. Elephant
Yeah.
ears and,
Yep.
pretzels and popcorn and
Popcorn and all that. Right.
all
It's
right.
easzy.
Let me get to these chats because there is a gang of them. And I want to get everybody in here because people took the time to chat. And I mean, hey, it's a discussion-based show. Otherwise, we could have pre-recorded this. All right. Travis says, my mother was with me for the movie, and she knows nothing about Star Wars, so it was hilarious when the random little mechanic showed up and became the main characters. Yeah, well, like I said, that's when I made the joke in the theater. I didn't actually say it to anybody, to either David or Daryl, but I was thinking, I'm like, oh, here comes the Ewok portion of the movie.
With the porgs.
It's for the kids. Remember that, right? Yeah, right. For the porgs. Dragonfly says, my favorite two scenes are the hard-boiled style restaurant shootout and the gladiator fight. Hollow Chest in Star Wars is called Djarin. Yeah, which is homage to John Carter, Chessman of Mars. Yeah.
But it's also the game that they played on the Falcon.
Yes. Right. The thing is, though, there are a lot of those scenes that were actually really cool. And again, I mean, yes, it was made for kids. Yes, it was fun. But that doesn't mean it wasn't devoid of some suspense and a little bit of... Unlike the sequels, you actually had stakes in this thing. You didn't feel like everything was going to be okay. I mean, there were a lot of like things. I mean, the whole thing where, Grogu was trying to help Din get healthy again after being bitten by the big snake. And it's basically like that was when he was coming into his own of like learning how to survive without being watched over, because now the tables are reversed. Now he has to help Din. And that was great. I mean, there was a lot of really good rich scenes in it.
He kept shoving his head back in that thing. It was hilarious.
Yeah. And there was some good comedy in there too. Now I could see, and again, this goes back to something that Ted had said earlier, where he was kind of like, hey, if he personally gave this movie an 8. If somebody gave it a 4, it wouldn't necessarily bother them, because again, this is another one of those. It really depends on what you were trying to get out of this movie. And I'm kind of the same thing. Like if somebody came up to me or chatted tonight, for example, that that little Grogu trying to save Din thing maybe went on a little too long, I wouldn't necessarily disagree. It didn't bother me. I didn't disagree. It's one of those things where I can understand criticisms of the film.
It's a very middle of the road movie, and I understand.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's a good way of putting it, actually, because it's one of those things where you could see if people haven't gotten directly in the spirit of it, why certain things might bother them. Travis goes on to say, my main complaint is the overly long action scenes where a guy walks into a room and takes everyone out. Got kind of obnoxious after a while. And again, I mean, I was cool with it, but I understand that, I mean, I think that obviously it being the Mandalorian, that's kind of the Mandalorian part, where
right.
He's going up against, criminal empire, the empire, I get that because, again, you go back to the gold standard, the original trilogy. It wasn't like there was a whole lot of hand-to-hand combat in that film.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand if maybe that felt a little bit outside of what you would want in Star Wars. I get that. Again, a lot of the things that I thought might bother me didn't actually bother me. Ted said, one thing I enjoyed was a stop motion appearance of many of the elements like the monsters and AT-ATs. Also, I felt the Babu Fricks were much better than the Ewoks. Yeah, I mean, without question. I mean, it was reminiscent of, okay, this is obviously the for the kids, let's try to make this thing cute section. But yes, infinitely less painful to watch than, the Ewoks. Like in Return of the Jedi, I find myself just like hitting that forward button on a lot of scenes. And I remember when we were watching both the marathon or when they did the special editions, I was just like, oh man, actually I have to watch this in real time.
Right, I don't have my handy remote here.
Yeah, I don't have exactly. It's like I can't. Hey, projectionist, could you, maybe dial this part up a little bit? Just get through it. I think we're all good, right? Everybody stand up in the theater. Yeah, everybody good? Can we maybe go past this? All right. Travis says, as a fan of the Aftermath books, I think Sigourney should have been Nora Wexley. Yeah. Yeah. And the time period would be right, too. Yes, I 100% concur. That would have been amazing. And if you haven't checked out the Aftermath books, the first one, it took me a while. The writing was a little weird on the first one. It took me a long time to get through it, even though I was invested in the characters pretty much right away. It took me a minute to get through, but like Life Debt and Empire's End, amazing. Travis says something that I ironically thought this during the movie. He says, Martin made a tasty looking sandwich though. Like there was that one, man, where I'm looking at it going, I kind of want that right now. Like that looks really good, like a grilled cheese on steroids or something. Dragonfly says, good thing Lucas scrubbed in sync, I believe, from the prequels. Wow. I didn't even know that. Yeah, that might have that might have taken me out of the movie slightly.
Yeah.
Voyager says 104 million in the 4-day weekend. It will be on par with Solo, not accounting for inflation. And then Dragonfly answers and says they keep dogging it for having the lowest opening, but they don't mention it also has the lowest film budget, which helps reach profit with loss. Grandmaster clarifies and says, regarding Sigourney, she asked to be in the movie. Sigourney shot more scenes, but they were cut. The movie was originally 2 hours 32 minutes and then cut down to 2 hours 22 minutes, then 2 hours 12 minutes. All right, well, that all makes sense. And then, of course, Dragonfly asks Grandmaster, so is a special edition coming? Because remember, he is our Lucasfilm insider. And then he clarifies some of the stuff. I think he posted this on Discord as well. 102 million domestic and 165 worldwide. Overseas has been counted into this total. 3 more days overseas to be added. Will come close to 200 million by the end of the week. He then clarifies and says, "You'll see the deleted scenes on YouTube." Cool. Travis goes on to say, "One thing the trailer subverted was the things you thought would be small parts of the movie ended up being huge parts of it. Rhoda, the Anzillians, Zeb, so on." Yeah. I was sort of primed for that though, because when I started reading the non-spoiler reviews or watching them on YouTube, they basically were like, "Yeah, it's kind of like you deal with the Empire like in the beginning, and then it switched completely to the Hutt storyline." So it was nice to see the twins though in a nice live action.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cool, and I like the Road to the Hutt thing, and I didn't mind the fact that he spoke English and he kind of sounded. And who did he sound like? Almost like John Goodman's character in Monsters Inc. That's kind of what it reminded me of. Travis says, "The shot I loved is after Mando wakes up and Grogu walks outside the mud hut. We see it wasn't big enough for Mando's legs, but was big enough to be Grogu's home. He's more grown than he knows." Yeah, I mean, you and I kind of looked at each other like, yeah, he's getting those Yoda housing skills down.
Well, I even love the fact that he even picked up the walking stick.
Like oh yeah,
I was just
I remember he looked over at me like, okay, here we go. Travis says, "Note for parents: if a stranger who is also the son of a crime lord offers to feed blue gummy sharks to your infant son from his jail cell, you should probably say no." Yeah, but I can understand in a way. I get why Din sort of allowed that. I mean, it's true. Plus, I mean, look at all that thing that kid's eating, man. His constitution must just be off the charts.
Yeah, he's constantly snacking.
He's constantly snacking, and he's eating like the weirdest things too.
Oh, he ate those bugs, and they all
Oh yeah, right. I remember that.
Now, one of the things I enjoyed about the Mandalorian that I want to highlight are some of the risks that they took. Notably, with Rhoda. I mean, how often do you see like a roided out, you know, hut? I mean, that was cool just to see. Like, you're so used to seeing them as these huge slobs, and here's Rhoda, like it's kind of been in the gym, putting in some work.
Not to take away from them, but I think that was a comic book thing. I think that they expanded Rhoda to be that in one of the comics or something like that, where they had it like that, and they just took it for this movie. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was not a new concept. If it wasn't that, then they just kind of lifted it, some expanded source.
Well, for me, it was new because it's like I had never seen anything like. I'm like, oh, that's different, and the fact that he spoke basic, which was interesting as well. And he was actually like, I mean, he was really a cool guy. Like, he was like, oh man, hey, can I feed him? Is it cool? Like, no, don't worry, I'm not my dad. I love just the concept of a hut not wanting to be a traditional hut. And he's just like, you know what? I want to be my own man. I kind of want to do my own thing. I don't want to be a part of this whole crime family thing. I mean, they can have it. Like, I know they only want me around because they want me back because they want to kill me because I stand in the way of them being in control. But they can have it as far as I'm concerned. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the film. And just the fact that he was just, he felt like, because it's funny when they showed the picture of him, and it's like, he's asked, do you have a picture of him? He's like, oh, well, he's had a growth spurt since, and they showed the picture of him, Stinky from the Clone Wars, movies. So I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, now Travis says strange. This TV universe is bookended by 2 theatrical films about rescuing Rhoda, who was kind of the first baby Yoda, but everybody hated him. It's true. Then he goes on to say, part of what makes the movie work alongside the saga is it's about remembering where we came from, even our predecessors, for better or worse, and not leaving them behind, which of course Grandmaster 100% supports. And then Travis goes on to say the young protecting the old kind of takes on double meaning about one generation of Star Wars respecting the previous generation of Star Wars. And then Grandmaster answers that by saying you got one of the hidden meanings. I do remember Grandmaster and one of the many Discord things saying there was going to be some like some undertones. But I'll actually bring up something that I think is somewhat obvious. What I really enjoyed too about this is the fact that they actually finally made Din more of a butt kicker in this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I get partially, but I also don't. In season 1, you know, he was, I don't know, I was kind of like watching it going, I kind of expected when it was a Mandalorian, he wouldn't get his butt kicked so much. And I get they're trying to be grounded and they're, you know, it's a little bit of a different type of a thing, especially because they were trying to separate him from Boba Fett and they didn't really want to make a Boba or Jango type of a clone, no pun intended.
Right.
But
right.
In some ways, I think in the series they kind of underpowered him a little bit, you know?
Well, yeah,
Now,
to that point, I mean, I think that what was really cool is that they showed him as a butt kicker, but then they juxtaposed him with Imbo. We haven't talked about him, but him
yeah,
actually being in the film, you know, brought or brought a lot of intrigue to this film. To see him in live action, we've seen Cad Bane in live action, but now we get Imbo, and Imbo being kind of like the bodyguards to the twins anyway. It made sense for him to be there, so I like that. They gave him his pet, which is the little wolf thing that was with him, and I. But just the way that when he and Din faced off, like that was just a really good um, challenge for Din. Because and that's the thing is because it really wasn't anybody for him to have to really fight against because he's not going to fight the Hutts, the twins. That wouldn't make sense. So the fact that you had another bounty hunter that's equally or more powerful than he is, that he has to kind of test his merit against. I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
yeah, I mean, I agree, but it was just nice because I like the fact that Embo was brought in. I like the fact that they gave him a challenge. I like the fact that it was tough. Again, one of the things that we pointed out a few times tonight is the fact that there was actual suspense and there was consequences and there was an actual stake. Things weren't super easy like in the Rise of Skywalker, for instance, where like there was zero tension in them, like zero. So I appreciated that, but I just like the fact that now Din is living up a little bit more to what you would expect. Now Travis has a couple says Din does get away with a bit much. When he brings in Coin, I was kind of expecting Ward to terminate his contract, putting them at war with the Hutts. He did kind of put him in danger. Then he goes on to say, I don't want to rewrite the movie, but it could have been more tense to acknowledge that Mando kind of screwed over the New Republic and is fired. Then he gets kidnapped and ultimately Ward saves him. Says they could have done some cold crap and found a super battle droid, the announcer telling the crowd that it's the same model that killed Din's parents when he was younger. That would have been cool. And he has to fight that. Yeah, and look, I get all that. And I mean, a lot of that I would say, yeah, okay. I disagree with any of it really, but I also don't really have any problems with what we got either. So, it's just one of those things where I think, again, this is what's going to happen to a lot of these things moving forward. First of all, you don't necessarily have the linear path like you had for the sequels, the original trilogy, the prequels, where, we knew we were getting them every 3 years. They're constantly growing and adding to the lore. This franchise has been around just shy of 50 years. So you have to factor in that you now have generations of Star Wars fans who all are expecting something different out of every single thing that comes out. And what you have to factor in is that you have to get into the mindset that you have to just look at, okay, well, what is it that I like in Star Wars? What do I want from Star Wars? And then just gravitate towards those projects.
Yeah.
Stop trying to shoehorn every single Star Wars project into your own, thing. Because they can expand it a little bit, they can grow it a little bit, they can tell some different types of stories. It's not going to necessarily, once the Skywalker saga was done, it doesn't have to be as linear as it was. And so now you're not beholden to a lot of the same things, which I think is what a lot of people want. And so even though we could technically nitpick it to death, I do think that overall they gave everybody what was pretty much necessary for a Star Wars. And again, look, I'll be the first person, and both of us, I think, pretty much agree. It's, was it this great, amazing Star Wars film? Not really, but it was good. And more importantly, it was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
It was good enough to accomplish what it needs to. Dragonfly says, do you think the astromech that looked like R2 was Luke leaving the Republic outpost? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess that could, that does fall within the type of Easter eggy type things that they do. But I'm not 100% sure. And that's one of those things, too, where it would be fun to rewatch this movie and try to pick up on some things that, maybe were either really subtle or maybe were completely missed or whatever. Travis says, there is a clear path forward. Ahsoka is missing, and now Rhoda is with him, presumably with access to the Hutt Empire of his family, including space routes. He could help find Ahsoka. And then he says, maybe later we have Rhoda go to his father's palace where Boba Fett says his time as a crime or probably meant Lord is over. He sees Rhoda as a good intention, passing the palace to him. I mean, it depends on where they want to go with the Mandoverse. I've been hearing rumblings that the Mandoverse is going to be pretty much done. Maybe, we'll see. Grandmaster has a little info here. Says, hint for everyone, our projection is that it will be profitable. This is the new starting point. Course correction. Ahsoka was always set for 2027. It is still in post-production, as is Starfighter. So, I mean, there you go.
That's another thing I love was the can't call it a space battle, but like in the planet battle that they had, with the X-wings, on Hutt. It kind of makes me wonder like what Starfighter is going to look like, just because of the cinematography that you saw, like the way they're shooting the X-wings and everything like that. It makes me excited for Starfighter because I know the cinematography is going to be amazing.
Well, not only that, but I think that one of the things that struck me in this movie, and it was nice to see this conveyed, even though it was somewhat, well, I won't say it was super subtle, but it was kind of subtle. There's like a different level. Like when the X-Wings came in, it's like, okay, these guys are like the butt-kicking pilot. Like you're not standing against them. And that was conveyed. It's like when they came in, man, it was over. Those guys had no
guns
hope.
Are hot. Yeah.
And I like the fact that it's like, yes, we're showing the strength of the New Republic. once the New Republic gets involved, you're done. You know, these guys are like hardened, you know, fighters, and they're expert pilots and all that. And I like the fact that that was conveyed. I'll put it like that in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that was fantastic. Oh, Travis, as another one says, which scene was the biggest response in your theater? Mine was Grogu trying to push Mando into the hut. Also, when Rhoda says, neither of us know how to fly, got a huge reaction. People didn't really react to much of anything, did they? Did you detect that? I mean, people did laugh at the, you know, him repeatedly slamming Mando's head against the hut.
Yeah, in the hut. But the I think it was like the cookies thing. The little teal cookies that he was chomping on.
Yeah.
And he was
that
like,
did, but they weren't. You know, I will say this. This is like the first Star Wars movie where people weren't cheering when the Lucasfilm logo came up, and
right.
You know, I mean,
like, okay, how bad is this going to be?
Well, that's it, and that's what I think. You know, this is one of those things. Like I said, you know, Star Wars it's not as bulletproof as it once was, and that was one of the first signs that when the logo came up, nobody was cheering, nobody was, you know, everybody was probably like, "Okay, I hope this is good."
The other part that got a reaction out of a lot of people, I forgot about this, is definitely got one out of me, which was hilarious. Was when they jumped inside that one AT-AT, and you know, Din's trying to fire at that one ship, but they're about to get, you know, obliterated. And he's like banging on his helmet, like, come on, we gotta go. He's like, yeah, I know.
Oh yeah.
And Grogu's like, no, now let's get out of here. You know, so that was really hilarious.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that got a pretty big reaction out of me. That was actually pretty funny. And I thought it was a nice scene to show where their relationship is at now.
Yeah.
So it was somewhat established in the beginning of the movie. I like that. Travis says, when one of the Anzelians sees Embo's dog and cries in terror, everyone, mostly children, started laughing. And one kid said, "Look, he's crying." Great. It's cool. He also says, when I saw Solo opening weekend, it was my friend and I in an empty theater. I was so relieved to have kind of a packed theater for this. And yeah, I was too, because to be honest, I was looking at some of the pre-sale things going, oh, it's not really going to be a problem at all to get tickets. You know, we don't have to worry about it. But then when I started exploring showtimes, I started seeing it filling up. And then, of course, our theater it wasn't super packed. Like, I mean, still, when you talk about the sequel trilogy, man, there were like no open seats hardly.
No.
You know, like I remember there was one where relegated back, and that was before they actually started selling like pre-sold tickets and stuff. But so it wasn't that. Again, Star Wars has definitely taken a hit, unquestionably. But I'm encouraged that maybe, just maybe, they can get some of it back with this. That's what I'm hoping. Now, whether that happens or not, who knows? You know, I think that because, and this is something that Grandmaster posted too, like the Rotten Tomato score is shot up. I think it's like at 89% or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the more word of mouth that happens, like people going,
more
hey,
people go see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, hey, guess what? It doesn't suck. It might actually bring more people to go see it. And then maybe you'll start to see that wave of, oh, okay, I kind of like this. But I mean, one of the things that you and I talked about was, is it too little too late? You know, obviously we both agree that the film is doing what it should do and what we were hoping it would do. I don't know if we're talking about will it live up to expectations. I think maybe it does, but it also depends on what your expectations are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like we said, I hope they haven't waited too late to strike gold. Um, but hopefully, I think after this weekend and enough people see it, and say that, hey, no, it was actually good. And then, now when the next project comes out, which will be Starfighter, um,
Theatrically,
that
yeah.
actually, that's what I mean, like theatrically, that it will actually, because see, that's the thing. It's like that's going to have its own hurdles, because at least with Mandalorian, like you had the TV show to kind of like, okay, I understand the characters, they're cool, they're cute, or whatever the case may be, but Starfighter is completely out of the blue. It's completely out of nowhere. So that's going to have its own challenges in and of itself. So
Well,
hopefully,
one thing that I'm encouraged by too, because remember, one of the things we didn't really talk about this much, but there was not one Jedi or lightsaber or anything to be found in this film.
nope.
Yet, it was engaging.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I don't even think the Force was even. I mean, it was used, obviously,
used.
but
Yeah.
so you did have Grogu, but he didn't ignite a lightsaber and go into battle or anything like that. And even when he used the Force, it was very sparingly. It wasn't like it was all over. In fact, that was another criticism that some people had in the movie. But look, this is true in any of the movie that feature the Jedi. Is that okay? You guys had this. You probably should have used X power in Y situation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, look,
Well,
you got plot devices, man. You got to create the tension. You can't do that. I mean, the Jedi could solve just about any problem, so you get the
well, the fact
Superman
that he's
problem.
strong enough to pick up Rhoda, I mean, that's impressive.
That was cool. And look, he's obviously grown, and he can now channel it, and he doesn't have to take like a nap every time he uses it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that part's cool. Kind of like that. Voyager says, I was listening to someone else, hopefully not during the show, and they were saying that the movie kind of fixed the lore of the Mando helmet. It said he could take off his helmet if he then kills the people who saw him. And that was the thing that I was actually trying to clue in on too. I'm glad she brought this up, because I'm trying to remember where they left off with it in season 3, because you had Bo-Katan and all those people that were like, yeah, this is stupid. We're not listening to that. Then, of course, they had changed Boba Fett's backstory to actually being a real Mandalorian, more or less. Even though he's kind of like a pretender to the throne, just took the armor or whatever. And then he had something, and it was either the Book of Boba Fett or Mandalorian season 2. I don't remember which. But I don't remember where they exactly left off with the whole helmet thing, because he then was rededicating himself to the way or something. And so, I mean, Voyager could be right that, okay, this is cool. And I mean, it's true. That would be a way of fixing it. It's like, okay, you could see me without my helmet as long as I kill you. That's a good way of maybe reconciling the two. But do you remember in the series where they left off with? Does anybody chatting remember where they left off? Because I honestly don't.
I think it was, if you. Was it if you take the helmet off, you remove his helmet? I remember he did have to go rededicate him or redo the creed, but I'm trying to think about which came first, that
Right.
part or the whole Bo-Katan thing.
Well, the Bo-Katan thing came first, because that was when we saw, that was in season 2. That was when they were like, in the bar or whatever, and they're like, yeah, we don't, where have you been? Because he didn't even realize. Because remember, he was
because there's two factions of them though.
right.
It's kind of
And
like the
because
old
he
guard,
was
and then
and because he was the old one, he didn't even know there was a new faction. That was one of the
right.
things they made a big deal about.
It's kind of like the Nation of Islam versus the Fruit of Islam. It's like they're the same, but they're different. They have different practices and ideologies, and so they kind of have. But I think the twins, because they made the whole thing. It's like, oh well, we took your helmet off, so because we know the creed, and they did it to really embarrass him, and it's kind of like I don't think that matters to him anymore. So I think because of the whole Bo-Katan thing, now that he's kind of like understands, like, okay, it's I mean, he tries to keep it on because of the mystique, and it adds to him as a bounty hunter. But
yeah, and it protects him. I mean, I'd want
and it
this
protects him,
thing
of
on
course.
too. If it were me, I mean, every time he's like down in that pit, no helmet, I'd be like, yeah, I kind of could use the helmet in this like weird situation right now. I'm in this strange body of
that
water.
one guy I was just like, dang, with that Beskar, I was just like,
oh yeah.
But and I know I was thinking about like when he got when they threw that smoke bomb and he passed out, and I was like, well, I thought the helmet filters that stuff out.
Again, it probably does, depending on the
plot
the
device,
situation.
I get it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, but we needed him knocked out, so it didn't. And then some in-universe geek will be coming out there going, but it malfunctioned right before that scene. If you look very carefully at whatever, there should be a red light or a green light. And, I mean, you get that level. Yes, you get that level of fandom, and that could happen. All right, Ted says, I think this will go a long way to reestablish goodwill with the base. This does help set up Starfighter for people to really get excited about because they didn't screw Mando and Grogu up. Exactly. Grandmaster says, highest audience score since the original trilogy. No Jedis or Sith. Fourth highest. Numbers don't lie. And then Dragonfly has a couple, says they semi-tied Jango Fett open season into. Yeah. And then he goes on to say that different clans have different rules, is what seems to be established. And you can always take a bath. Yeah, that's right. It's like kind of
There's no dragon snake
thing
in there.
Yeah, right. So I mean, those are all really good points. And I mean, I think that it's important to remember that obviously they're going to take a few liberties on this, depending on what kind of a story they want to tell. And that's why I always say you got to be really careful when you start establishing certain canonical things. You better be sure, as Jack Nicholson once said as the Joker, because actually I think he was still Jack Napier, but I think that you just have to be really careful about what you establish as canon, because you're not only tying yourself to it, you're tying all future storytellers to it. That's why, to be honest, I was a little bit nervous about that whole Dawn of the Jedi thing that Mangold was supposed to do, because they have a nice little thing from the Old Republic, and then there was like a comic series that talked about the early days of the Jedi when they used to use swords, and then I forgot who built the first lightsaber, but that was all established in an expanded universe. It's been around for a while. It works. It's good. People have drawn from it. It doesn't trap you. My fear is if the Dawn of the Jedi movie itself, or if something like that were to ever reappear, I don't know. It's like they might try to change stuff, or let's modernize it, or let's do whatever. And my fear is that they're really going to mess that up. You know what I mean? Because it's like you start messing with that, it could really affect a lot of storylines moving forward. Now, granted, I guess because it's so far back, you could work around that, but I just think it's dangerous to do too much. That's why if you look at what George Lucas did in the original trilogy, even when he explained the Force, very broad. It surrounds us, binds us, and all living things. Very, very broad strokes, very fantasy, not sci-fi. He started going sci-fi when he started busting out the whole midichlorian count thing and all that stuff. But in the original trilogy, it was broad, and it allowed you to tell broad stories and to, basically have a little bit of liberty with it without worrying so much that you're going to contradict something.
All right.
All right. Travis says, what was the most emotional scene or moment for you guys? Like interviewing us. It's great. For me, it was when Gattori tells Grogu to give Mando the medicine, but to also prepare for it to be goodbye. Hit harder than I thought it would. Yeah, I mean, that was actually another very touching and just a lot of the slower, more emotional scenes I thought really landed in. And that was definitely one of them. It had a very, man, you know what? They have those kind of story tropes all the time in movies. You run into some dude in a swamp or the woods or something, and he's rocking in his chair, and he dispenses some little nugget of wisdom, or he comes up with some medicine or something. But I thought that was a really well done thing, and of course when you had Embo come in and confront him a little bit, and Grogu had to hide, and yeah, like I said, that whole Grogu healing Din thing was really well done.
Yeah, I would agree with Travis. As far as that type of scene, that would have been it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that, yeah, the whole, I mean, that was a good one. I thought that, a lot of Rhoda scenes when he was talking about he didn't want to be his father, and, he was really sincere about it. I thought that was pretty emotional. Obviously, when Grogu was trying to revive Din, little tears knocking in the corner. Oh boy, Dom's here. Says, well, wasn't good, was it? Okay, number one, did you even see it? Because if you didn't see it, and actually, no, it was great. Not the best, but it was really good. Travis says, Mando watching Grogu and Rhoda playing on the beach, the shout out, the forest as Mando draws fire away from Grogu escaping. Yeah, it was a good one too. And even when I thought Rhoda was about to die with his aunt and uncle. Yeah, that was another really cool one. And of course that you brought that up. Where you were talking about when he was like actually lifting Rhoda up. How impressive that was. And I like the fact that it was hard for him. Like, it wasn't easy. I really did enjoy that aspect. A few more before we wrap up. Of course, Don was like possibly like 3 to 4 mid episodes in a movie format. It could have been that. Some people were complaining about that, but I think the most you could tag it for is to say that it could have been like a Disney Plus, like a made for Disney Plus film. But it was cinematic enough. Travis says, as predictable as the movie could be, I was worried that Rhoda would fall into the water and be eaten by the snake for just a second. You could hear the relief in the theater when Grogu lifted him up. Yeah, that was a pretty cool scene. Dragonfly says it was a solid, good film. No episode 2. And we could always use more Kid Fisto. It's unfortunate the current mindset is making perfect the enemy of good. And that's a good point. And I think that that's a really good one to wrap this up on, actually. The fact that, people now have this expectation of Star Wars where it's got to be perfect. And yes, sure, the original trilogy, for the most part, are nearly perfect. Empire is probably as close as you're going to get to a perfect. But, you can't do that. I mean, even the prequel trilogy fell apart on a number of levels. But then again, time's gone by and everybody's all into the prequels. That was not the case when they came out. I don't think that same kind of love is going to happen for the sequel trilogy. And certainly a lot of the TV shows deserve a lot of the criticism that they get. But this one, I think it's solid, man. I mean, it's good. It did what it needs to do. And it's a really good adventure. It's fun. It's everything that Star Wars should be, especially for right now. And again, like I said, this franchise is 1 year from being 50 years old. And what are you going to do? You got 50 years of different generations of fans that all want different things out of Star Wars. No movie is going to withstand the criticism, especially when you factor in that you don't have the linear storytelling like you did when you had the saga film. So you're just going to have to look at it like, okay, do I like this universe? Do I like the characters? Do I like basically the concept? And if you do, approach each film, each project, and just say, look, this one's for me, this one's not. And then let everybody else enjoy what it is they're going to enjoy out of it. Certainly criticize, bad execution, poor writing, horrible direction, bad acting, or whatever. But, from a technical standpoint, if there's nothing wrong with it, then, it's okay. You can let it go. Like, not everybody needs to hear every single opinion. I know in the age of social media, and look, we're doing it. We're on YouTube. What are we doing? We're doing the same thing. But we're also pretty fair, I think, in our criticism. Of course, everybody will probably. Travis says, also, the opening credits were such a Top Gun homage. And I kind of felt that way, too. With the Rebel ships being fueled and taking off at sunrise. Was expecting a Huddy's Danger Zone to start. Well, and like we said with the music, the music was really cool too because you had all different kinds of styles and they all worked. They all congealed into a good thing for the project. And each song was tailored to whatever scene it was. And like I said, you had almost like EDM style stuff. You had the typical Star Wars orchestral type stuff. You had almost like world music type things going in there. You had all different kinds of music, and yet it all worked. I mean, Danger Zone might have been a little over the top. But, I get what you're saying, though, because you're right. That did have a little bit. And I'm wondering, with Starfighter, if we're going to get a little bit more of that. Is it going to be... That's
when I want to hear Danger Zone.
Yeah. That's when I think, okay, if you're going to do kind of like the Star Wars version of it, that would be the film to do it. Because it sounds like, and of course I'm sure Grandmaster will like this, but it sounds like it's going to be Top Gun in space. That, or Top Gun in Star Wars. Or Top Gun meets Star Wars. Something. All right. You got anything else you want to say about the movie? I knew this was going to be a longer than usual episode.
No, I'm all set.
But it deserves to be. Simply because, hey, man, this is the first Star Wars movie in 7 years. And at least we're not doing 3-hour episodes anymore. We've kind of spared you guys from that. But we do thank those of you who used to watch all those for hanging in on that. So let us know in the comments section what you guys thought of the movie. I'll probably put a poll up. Just, did it live up to your expectations or no? Something like that. Be sure to take that. You can continue the discussion about this movie in the Discord and let it fly. Whether you liked it, didn't like it, did it meet your expectations, did it fall short of them? Don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe. Do subscribe. A lot of times, we try our best to come on Sundays at 8. Maybe we came on Sunday at 9. Sometimes we have to do Monday. You never really know. So hit that notification bell when you subscribe because you will then find out when we go live. Probably not going to be able to do a show next week. I got an out of town gig that I got to do Monday and Tuesday, and I got to leave Sunday night. We'll see. Maybe we'll pre-record something. But if we do, just keep an eye on our social media, keep an eye on our Discord, and keep an eye, obviously, right here, and you'll know it all. All right? So I think that's going to wrap up our spoiler review of The Mandalorian and Grogu. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys saw the movie and enjoyed it. And I think we're just going to go from here. So with that, I'm Eric Mansell.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.
Right.